welcome to my channel. It's the girl Alana here. Welcome back to 3 Degrees of Love Divination. So I want to say thank you for joining me today, Michelle. You are the creator of this gorgeous um journal and um deck set. I put a little, I just thought
Love
it was
it.
cute. Yeah, and just it was more so to keep the box because even the way that the box is situated, sometimes when you lift it up, I feel like the top pulls off a little bit.
Mhm.
But like it's like perfect because it's like one deck with like it looks like one deck, but it's got four decks in it. Actually, technically four and a half, but we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. So yeah, so thank you for being here. Actually, as we're filming this, it's our Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving. You're West Coast. I'm technically East Coast, although Central more or less. But yeah. And we're both in Canada. So this is our Thanksgiving weekend. So thank you know, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. But those that might be catching this in the US, we know where we're before you. So that's just how we do things here in Canada. So yeah. Um, but without further ado, please, Michelle, tell us all about yourself. What is what's your background? Even your spiritual journey, like what brought you to this point?
Yeah, so my background is in retail and sales. So I was working in retail and transitioned into sales and really was not liking it at all and burnt out in my sales job. And so I ended up quitting my sales job without having anything else lined up. And it left me in a place where I had also just broken up with a partner and had moved recently. And so I was in a place where I really needed to rebuild my life. And I had just started something called DBT, which stands for Dialectical Behavior Therapy. And that is treatment for borderline personality disorder, which I had been diagnosed with a couple of years prior. Um, and so I was doing this treatment and in this space where I really didn't know what my next steps were, but I knew that where I was, I didn't really love, and I knew that there was more to what I wanted. And so I really just started figuring out what my values were and what I wanted to kind of pour my life into. And I started just thinking, I know I want to help people, and I know that DBT is really helping me. So let me put a little bit of that out into the world. And I started a Mindful Wildflower Instagram account. And that's where I started just posting DBT skills, posted a little bit about my BPD journey, and about my own mental health and kind of where I was at. And from that, I thought, this is really impactful. There are people that are saying that they really love what I'm posting. It's really helping them. And I've thought, like, what else can I do? How can I get this out there even more? And that's where I thought of the idea of making the card deck. And so part of it was just that I wanted to learn the skills more. And so I thought, if I'm making these cards, I'm going to have to learn them really, really well to be able to make them and put them out into the world. Then it's going to get it into people's hands and help other people be able to learn the skills and get them into their lives as well. And then as I was doing that, then I was also kind of on my own healing journey and was struggling to journal and struggling to kind of figure out where to start and how to work through things. And so realized that I just needed a little bit more structure. And so I kind of looked for some tools myself. There's lots of DBT workbooks, but a lot of them are just very like it's almost like homework that you're doing, and so it just feels very structured and very homeworky. Whereas I thought if I can find something that's just journaling but gives some prompts and gives some suggestions, that can really be a soft way to learn and to grow in some very hard ways. And so that's where the journal came from. And so I just started creating this journal that's really kind of a survival guide to being emotionally sensitive. And so it goes through when things are easy, when you're kind of feeling it and feeling motivated, and then it goes through the times when you're in crisis and you can't think of the skills to use, and you can go to the journal and it'll kind of guide you through and help you. And so yeah, that's where we're at now.
Yeah, and that's such a wonderful story. And just to hear your journey, there, listening to your story, I'm like, oh my God, like I feel like I have a mirror in front of me because um even though like a lot of the things that you were talking about are things that I myself experienced, but my mental health journey is a little bit different. I'm OCD. I'm a highly sensitive, neurodivergent. And some even on my path and learning about myself and all of these feelings, it's sometimes, yeah, sometimes the emotions are a lot and they can take over and almost crippling in a way. And I have experienced that. And then of course, when you throw in things like childhood trauma, and being told that you're too sensitive and things like that, you've grown up sort of believing that, well, yeah, you have to suppress those emotions. But I realized that, the toll that suppressing those emotions took on me physically. And to this day, I'm still sort of paying for that. And but this is also like it explains my story too, in the sense of, where I burnt out, did the same as you, how I, just have found my way to tarot, to connecting back with spirituality, but furthering my journey. So that would be the other part to my question. Do you have a spiritual practice that you would consider that you have? What does that look like for you? And how is that helpful in your everyday with
Yeah.
everything that you do? Or
Yeah,
even
great
even
question.
if you would consider this to be part of that spiritual practice, like I want to I
Mhm.
want to I want to know as much as I can about you.
Yeah, so definitely this is part of the spiritual practice that I would say I kind of am getting into now. I grew up in a very Christian background and had some religious trauma. I ended up being in an abusive marriage with a Christian man, and the church reacted very poorly to it. They sided with the man and yeah, just were not protective of me at all. And so I had a lot of trauma from the church and how they handled things. And so for a long time, I just blocked out everything spiritual because it just triggered so much for me. So for years and years after, I just anything that was remotely spiritual, I would just kind of put my hands up at. Within the last few years, I have started to think there is kind of something to the universe, and there's something about all of us being connected, and the energy that you bring into the world, I think, comes back to you. And so I've been really dabbling in just kind of a broader sense of spirituality and not necessarily the religion aspect of it, but just spirituality in the world and in who we are as people and kind of what energy we bring to each other and how that kind of connects to the world and how it connects to each of us as well. So I definitely have dabbled in that a little bit more. And then as I've gotten into mindfulness and getting into just the DBT skills, that has become it's in a lot of ways has replaced religion for me in that like this is showing me kind of how to act and what are the proper responses here? And it's kind of that guiding instructional for me, whereas I kind of put religion in that before. Would That was my guiding light to where I was going with life, and now I kind of put DBT in that position where I'm really kind of following the teachings of DBT, and not to make it like a spiritual or a religious thing, because it's not about like doing the practices in a religious way, but there's definitely kind of some similarities to how you can cross over there.
Yeah, and you know what? I love the way that you put that because so like you, again, looking in the mirror, instead of seeing me, I see your pretty face. But but no, like again, I was very much raised Christian and you know, Catholicism, and then various in my family, various different versions of Christianity. Um, but like you, it was there, the religious trauma around the way that people act, yes, they hide behind, the dogmatic aspects of religion, but it's like they they don't practice what they preach,
Mhm.
right? And then when the way that a lot of those people that and by those people I'm talking about the stronghold religious ones. I have those in my family too. So it's not that I'm just talking about it, just anybody.
Yeah.
Like, and right, like, anyways, but like, that idea of, yeah, practice what is being preached. They don't. And
Hmm.
then when they look at you, if you are not of a certain persona, then you're not deserving of love or respect or inclusion, even, for that matter. So and it was a very sort of one track mind. I found where that was concerned. It's when I and it's funny because as my life was crumbling down, I turned back into my faith, but in a different way. It was I worked at a Christian bookstore, things like that. I saw a lot of hypocrisy, and then it was like I sort of needed that, because then it's like I broke the glass ceiling to spirituality. It was
Hmm.
like it's so much more than just the religious text. And then realizing that all these religious texts actually have a common thread. If you really stop to really pay attention, there's a common thread.
Hmm.
And as much as Christianity is the one that everyone wants to up and behold and hold on a pedestal, it is not the oldest religion out there. There's more that existed long before they did. So it's that's the beauty of sort of expanding and opening myself up to other practices. And I think that's also where the idea of diving into tarot and seeing tarot as a tool combined with therapy to be
Hmm.
able to, highlight that. And so that's why when your deck and your journal came out, I was like, oh my God, it's so good. And even though it's not really a tarot or it's not really an oracle, it's still the way that I feel like you've structured it, and we'll get into that. But the way that it's structured, it gives that feeling of I'm using tarot and or cards rather, because
Hmm.
that's essentially what tarot is. Even though I've so many people like to, well, I know tarot. I don't need to know you, but I know tarot, and tarot is evil and means you talk to demons. First off, tarot cards are paper, ink, pictures or art. So maybe you're giving something that is not living, breathing,
Yeah.
too much power. You think?
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. Um. So I want to. Okay, what do I want to do now? Because I'm like, do I want to go through the journal first, or do I want to go through the cards? Actually, you know what? Let's save the cards for the then. We'll go through the journal a little bit more, because the one thing that I noticed, um, it's funny because I had questions too, but you already hit them. I was like, what's dialectical behavioral therapy? You already answered. And then what inspired you to create this? Well, you already went through that. So I don't need to ask those questions again. But okay, but I do want to go through the journal because the way that it's set up, I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's very like my Virgo side of me is very flattered with and like, woo, look how structured it is. It's so well organized and blah blah blah. So, of course, we have like a place to write your name for the journal. And then what I really love is how very personal it feels, like especially when you open the book because we have a letter that's written by you. And that's beautiful. And of course, we're all wildflowers. uh you're the mindful wildflower, but I think the idea is that we're all to become the mindful wildflower in the end
That's
once we
right.
do all of this. So yeah, we have a table of contents. And then it's really about it. And as I turn the page, it's really about getting to know your feelings. And that was one of the things that I had been learning in therapy, is about being able to name your feelings. So
Mhm.
the idea, and I think that's, from my understanding, that's what this sort of therapy structure is really about.
Mhm.
It's really about getting in tune with your feelings and the different parts of self. Because when our feelings are absorbed by us, sometimes they're the one taking the reins and not our logical selves, right? That's
Mhm.
how we get uh reactions as opposed to responses.
Mhm.
um and depending on what your trauma, or what your trauma thing will determine what part of your emotions, or which emotion within you is going to surface and
Mhm.
take the lead. So the idea is that no one emotion is in the driver's seat. It's always the logical self, and we're always just um we're getting to know our feelings so that we can basically commune with them
Mhm.
to get the answers that we need, but not let them take over, because a
Yeah.
lot of the time our feelings are probably younger than us, especially if you
Mhm.
have childhood trauma. You've got feelings that are probably stuck at the age the trauma first dealt with, right?
Mhm.
So, but right at the beginning you have here a page where you can actually color, and it does say feel your feelings. Yeah, right. And really getting in tune with the inner child. Um, and then starting off, we have, so tell me about the different tabs, because we have 1 through 14.
Yeah, so the first half starts out with kind of a structured, and it goes almost chronologically where you would kind of work through it in order. So starts out with building the foundation, and this you're
Mhm.
supposed to fill out when you're in your wise mind. So in DBT, they talk about three different mindsets, and
Yes,
one is your emotional mind when you're just feeling those emotions and reacting just on the emotions without really thinking about it. The other
yes.
side is where you're only thinking about the facts and you're just thinking logically and you're not taking into consideration anyone's feelings. And then wise mind is in the middle when you take into consideration the facts and you take into consideration how you're feeling and what you need, and you kind of meet in the middle with wise mind. And so this building the foundation is to be done when you're in your wise mind, you're focused on what your goals are, taking into account how you're feeling as well. And so first you go through and you kind of set your goals. So it goes through some goal setting, goes through setting up your morning and evening routines, because that's super important for your mental health to have some consistency and set up kind of your day how you'd like it to look. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
then it goes into values identification so that when you're doing this, you know why you're doing it. So it goes down to, has you circle through different values of what kind of stand out to you. Then you go through and say why those ones stand out, why they matter to you. And then you go into a DBT skill called pros and cons, which is kind of how we start our DBT skills and saying, in teaching us why do we want to do them. So we always have these pros and cons written out so we can go back to it to remind ourselves of, okay, I'm doing this because I want a life worth living. I want it to look like XYZ. These are what my values are, so this is why I'm doing it. And this is what looks like if I don't do it. This is what my life keeps looking like. Um, then we go into skills definitions. So there's a couple pages of all the different skills, DBT skills. And then we go into some cope ahead sections. So these are just sections that you can write out events that are coming up that are going to be a little scary or bring up emotions, and you can kind of plan ahead and prepare for them. And so there's,
And this is where we're at the cope ahead, right? Like
yeah,
we're at the cope ahead section. Okay.
yeah. And
Yeah,
then,
and what I also want to say that I really love about this, keeping and bearing in mind that we October 10th was also World Mental Health Day. So, that's also something to consider. And given the state of of our world as we stand, right? We have we I was going to say we have, well, the world's on fire. But also we have so many people that are running with their feelings are on the loose.
yeah.
So it's like, right? Like everybody is sort of in the state of reaction,
Hmm.
whereas, and rather than taking the time to respond. And then on top of that, we have all of the factors going on within society that, systemic issues, all of those things that just add to the
Hmm.
chaos. And of course now with everything sort of coming to the forefront, all of these the darker aspects of life that were hidden are now rising to the surface, and we're all just running like chickens with our heads cut off. So this is why I feel like why I think something like this is so important, especially considering, because I've done Bell Let's Talk Day, and for those that are Canadian, we know what Bell Let's Talk Day, but for those that aren't, every year on my channel, I've been doing, not sponsored by Bell or anything, but my own opportunity to bring mental health awareness to the forefront and to talk about it. And what I love about doing that, and I think it's already been 4 years that I've been doing that. Um, wow, time flies, is that I'm always speaking with other people who have struggles with their mental health. They're creators, whether they've made tarot decks, whether they've made journals or books, or like you who've done a journal and a set of cards, like, right? And really getting that opportunity to really discuss mental health, bring awareness to it, break the stigma, and show that life is not over because you have a diagnosis.
Hmm.
There's so much more to living. You just looking at doing it in a different way.
Hmm.
And some of those things, of course, we're all individuals. We all have our various journeys, and so our struggles are not always going to look exactly the same. But it's the fact that we even have them, and the fact that resources are scarce, right? I think just this past year in my the latest Bell Let's Talk Day video I did, we talked about statistics and about, the percentage of people that either go undiagnosed, or don't access mental health care or don't have access to it. And so, so it's when things like these sort of come about that it makes me have hope for myself, I have hope for other people, because okay, even though, and I can I recognize that I'm grateful for the opportunity that I do have regular therapy sessions, and but I know that there are a lot of people who don't have access to that. And so something as well thought out like this, I feel, can, when there is no access to that outside help, that you can at least have, um what's the word I'm looking for, um an anchor, if you will,
Mhm.
a little
Mhm.
bit of an anchor to
Yep.
get you through those tough feelings, and all of those things that come up that may keep you feeling isolated and alone, or not being able to regulate, or even um cooperate with others. This is something that is beautifully done. So we were at Cope Ahead, but now, so okay, and that's pretty much the Cope Ahead. That's all basically tab one. So
Mhm.
let's get into tab two.
Yeah, so then tab two is the daily care section. So that's basically consists of three separate activity pages. So the first is the skills checklist. And that's where you go through, and this is a weekly checklist. So you go through
Yeah,
and you can check Wise Mind and say which days you used Wise Mind. Observe, describe, participate, all of the DBT skills you can kind of go through and each day check through which skills you were using. And
yeah,
this is part of, if you're in a DBT class, it's part of what you have to do for your class. And so this is just a nicer way to organize it. But it was also, I found when I was doing it in my class, it was very helpful for me to see and to know what I was working on and to remind myself, well, oh yeah, there is this skill. So having that checklist where each week you're kind of going through just brings them to the forefront. And then the other big page, this one is repeated multiple times so that you can, many, many times, so you can fill it out over and over again. But it's a daily page and it has your daily emotions that you fill out, how you're feeling on a scale of, or how you strongly you felt that emotion on a scale of 1 to 10. And then there's
mhm,
the behaviors that you're trying to avoid. So typically, this is something like maybe you're trying to quit smoking, or maybe you're trying to quit negative self-talk, or any kind of behaviors that you're trying to maybe doom scrolling that you're trying to reduce in your life. You want to track those here, and you can say how strongly you wanted to do it that day and how many times did you act on that urge. And then the bottom part here is just to fill out, and it's kind of just some blank space for you to use, but the question is, how did you use your wise mind? And then at the bottom of every other page, there's a nice affirmation at the bottom, so you can just be inspired. And as I said, that repeats. So there's 7 of those, and then at the end of the week, there is a page um, for all of the good. Um, and that's just a space at the end of the week that you can write all the good things that happened that week. And then
and um the other thing that I was going to ask you, as we're talking about this, is what happens when you run out of pages.
when you run out of pages, you can buy a new journal. But there are currently 20 weeks worth of pages. So it should last about 6 months, a little longer if you are using it daily to use that. And right now, the option is there are some virtual pages that you can download. But then, yeah, right now the option is buy another journal. But there may be some things in the future where we do maybe a condensed version that's just those pages,
Yeah.
so that you can keep the rest of the pages and use those throughout as well. But yeah,
And
that
I
is
love
it.
that. I think one thing that I want to say is, too, is that, as this is fantastic, but even because I did talk about the fact that, well, if you have a diagnosis, but this is can really go for anyone. You don't
Mhm.
necessarily have to have an actual diagnosis.
No,
You can just be struggling with life. Like,
yeah,
that's really it. And you need some structure for yourself, some personal structure. this is another great tool to even use for that. So I wanted to make mention because yeah, I think that this is really cool. And so this is the all good that you were talking about, right? So now we're into tab 3.
Yeah, and tab 3 is the crisis toolkit.
Yeah.
And that's where you go when you're in crisis. So the first page starts with some contacts. It lists already some of the hotlines that you can call. And then there's a spot for you to write your own personal contacts as well. So you always have a space to go to remember, oh, there are people I can reach out to, even if it doesn't feel like it's someone in your close circle, there's always someone that you can reach out to. So
Yeah.
that's what that page is to remind you of. And then we go into my truths, and there's a spot for you to write truths to yourself. So when you are in your wise mind and you are feeling confident about who you are, you can write to yourself for those times when you're not feeling confident in who you are, and you can remind yourself of the good things about yourself, the good things that you're working on, and just, yeah, have that refresher from yourself. Um, then there's a couple of skills pages again. So the please skill and the tip skill, these are some distress tolerance skills. So just to remind you of the tools that you have, and the accept skill as well. And then
Yeah,
it goes
I
into
love this.
some journaling prompts where it lists all of the feeling words, and you can just check off which feelings you're feeling. And that's something that I learned in one of my earliest therapy sessions, was they would give me a list of feeling words and just have me circle what I was feeling. Because just trying to think, what do you feel? You think of happy, sad, mad, and you really have a hard time of thinking, but there's so many words that can describe how we're feeling. So the more we can name it, the more we can actually understand it, and um, actually attest, or actually respond to that feeling. So
Yeah.
there's
And
um,
even just to note that as you talked about the happy, sad, anger, like those are all, like I would say, like core feelings. But there's so much more, just like colors, there's so
mhm,
much more diversity to that because these core feelings can create subdivisions
yeah.
that sort of create other feelings that are combinations of, the core ones. So, and when you go down that rabbit hole, there's so much more to discover of
Mm,
feelings.
yeah,
So, and of course, my brain always has to go there. Yeah, do you remember to describe the movie Inside Out like that?
exactly. Just like that.
Just child's brain that just inner child that just like, oh, don't forget about that movie. Yeah. So okay. Um,
Yeah,
and
and then
then okay, so you were explaining, sorry.
yeah, it goes through a couple more questions, just prompting, and then it repeats that a few times so that you're able to use that same system of circling your feelings and answering some questions about it a few times as you're in crisis. So this section repeats itself for multiple crises. And then it goes into after the storm, which is tab 4, and then you're to fill out this section after you've gone through the crisis. And now you can again circle how you're feeling now after the crisis is over. You can fill out what skills you used. So there's this page here where it shows all the feelings and then all of the skills. So you can check off what you used. And then again, there's some prompts for some more questions. And then those pages repeat themselves as well so that you can go through the after the crisis.
And that's awesome. I love how you even attached um like coloring pages into it too. That
Yeah.
it really speaks to the idea of really in tuning with the inner child,
Mhm.
and that sense of creativity as we my brain is saying, as we explore our feelings, we're exploring colors just the same, because as I was just saying, colors are a lot like feelings, right?
They
Because
are.
there's the core and the, yeah. So Yeah, anyways, okay, so yeah, okay. And that brings us to tab 5.
That brings us to tab 5, which is surviving splitting. And so this one is splitting is something that they usually typically use in BPD, but it's something that all of us do. It's when you kind of view the world in all black and white. So when you are really kind of, you've split yourself down the middle and what at once you thought it was all good, and then all of a sudden something bad happens, and now, oh, you can't see any of the good anymore, and oh my goodness, this whole thing is terrible, and why was I ever here in the first place? And so that's what splitting is. And so there's a section that gives you some skills again. So the give and the fast skill to help you with when you are splitting. Uh, Again, there's a section for you to write what splitting looks like for you and what some things to kind of look out for so that you can tell if you are splitting. So there's again, a section for you to write when you're in your wise mind. And then when you are splitting, then there's questions to kind of prompt you and lead you through to kind of help you see the other side, hopefully. And again, there's affirmations at the bottom of the page to help you kind of tune into that wise mind and help you try and move away from the black and white thinking and make some room for the gray, coming
Yeah,
into the colors again.
exactly, right? Exactly. And then I love this. Dear
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, that's the Dear Man skill. So that's how it's basically a script of basically writing out when you have anything to ask for, or you want to say no to something. You can use this acronym, Dear Man, as a script. So the D stands for describe, the E stands for express, the A for assert, the R for reinforce, the M for mindful, the A for appear confident, and the N for negotiate. And so it gives you kind of a step-by-step of how you go through and ask for what you want or say no to what you need to. And so it's just a great interpersonal effectiveness skill. And we go through, we have a few of those in here as well. So you can fill out a couple of them um, as you have different situations. And then there's, again, some questions and prompts for you to answer as well.
And then during the split again. And yeah, so I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And then uh, this, oh wow. So now we're into tab 6, which is all about anger.
All about anger. So yeah, tabs 6 through 14 are all emotion tabs. So these tabs are all meant to focus on one emotion, and then it gives you prompts to help you through that emotion. So there's first going to be a title page where it'll give you kind of what it feels like, the urges that you might be having, common triggers. Um,
Hmm.
the function of it and any helpful skills that might be helpful for that particular emotion. And then it goes through and it has prompts. So for anger, we just have 2 blank pages where you can scribble, you can scream on the pages, you can write curse words, you can do whatever you need to because that's what you need for anger sometimes. And then we go into some questions, some prompts that will help you work through the anger. So one of them is, what boundary might this anger be trying to protect? So each of these prompts are specific to the emotion to really help you move through the emotion. And again, at the bottom of each of the pages, we have affirmations that are specific to the emotion so that you can again, move through that emotion with mindfulness.
I Yeah, the more you keep going, the more that you keep explaining and we're going through this journal, the more and more impressed I am. So like yeah, like this is this feels like therapy without actually going to therapy.
A little bit, yeah.
Essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like it's yeah, it's very well thought out. And I just like I said, I love the the little touches. Um, like I said, the way that you're pleasing my Virgo sign. Right? Like it's just so very well organized, even if you're not. like, right? Like, even if the person who
Yeah.
isn't, this is organized.
Hmm.
So this is what a way to keep yourself organized
Yeah.
with something that really encompasses everything that you are,
Yeah.
right? And as you reflect upon it. So I
Hmm.
love that. So that was tab 6, which is anger. Then we have tab 7, which is sadness, and it's the same sort of outline
Yeah.
as with anger and everything.
Yeah.
Um, and then we go into tab 8, which is shame. So yeah, you're very much, to me, you're highlighting exactly what I was saying earlier, the core emotions, if you
Hmm.
will.
Yeah.
You've sort of have them laid out in tab form throughout the book. And then, like I said, that one page, just like colors, we can explore this several different subdivisions that a lot of the combination of these um feelings can
Hmm.
generate. So that leads me into the question of, yes, we have all of these core feelings, if you will, sort of laid out here. Do you have, or is there additional pages for, let's say, if you wanted to explore some of the subdivision of feelings? So those that may be combined with, right? Like if we were to combine anger with loneliness, right? And the idea of rejection and stuff like that. Are there separate pages that you have for those, or is that
There
something maybe you might think about in the future, or do
definitely
you
might
have
be
something
something in the
else?
future. We don't have anything right now, but yeah, might be something in the future. There is, I will say, this is a good transition to talk about the cards as well, because sometimes you don't know what you're feeling. Sometimes I look at the journal and great, um, I have all of these emotions that I could use the prompts, but what am I even feeling? And so that's when using the cards can be a great thing. In the emotion regulation deck, there is a section that's the emotion dictionary.
Yeah.
And so if you,
You know what? Yeah, the sections we are very self-explanatory. There's more feelings that were in there from, like you said, from, what was it? From tab 6 to 14.
yeah,
So, but as you said, this is a great segue to get into the decks. Because yeah, and what was the one that you said? Oh, emotional regulation. That was the one that we were
yeah,
going to go through first, right? Okay,
yeah.
so let's do that.
So in
Um,
emotion regulation, there's kind of two decks in one. So you'll see on the back of the cards, it'll say emotion regulation. So these are the emotion regulation skills, and they're going to be in green. And then on the back of these ones, it says emotion dictionary in pink. And then on the fronts, it'll be pink writing. And so,
Okay, so thank you, because I remember when I was looking through it, I was like, oh, why are there two different frames on the cards? And yeah, so okay.
yeah. So we've separated out the emotion dictionary in the emotion regulation set. And
Yeah.
so this is tips for using the dictionary. And then it goes through each emotion. And this one has a little bit more broad of a range than what's in the journal. And so this will give you, again, what this emotion feels like, the urges, common triggers, the function, and any helpful skills. So these will give
Okay.
you a little bit more than what's in the journal. But the great thing is you can also kind of look through these and pick out, okay, this is yeah, I'm kind of feeling this one, kind of feeling this one. Pick out the ones that you're feeling, and then you can go, okay, now I have a better idea of what I'm feeling, now that I can kind of see it on paper and put words to it. And then you can then go in the journal and find the section that matches it and journal the rest. But sometimes you do just need something tangible to kind of flip through and go, okay, what am I feeling? Is it sadness?
Yeah.
Is it anger, guilt, jealousy, disgust? And just be able to have these words physically in your hands can help you yeah, identify what you are feeling.
Yes, absolutely. So that was that I love how you did that. That was, it was look at how you transitioned so well. I was just gonna say because I was like, here I am asking you, well, what about when you combine the several different, well, here we go. Let's go into the cards. Perfect. I love that. So, yeah, so okay, so explain more about the because that was the dictionary, emotional
Mhm.
dictionary or
Yep.
emotions dictionary. The emotional regulation. Tell me a little bit more about this um deck, this side of the deck, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, so DBT is broken up into four modules: mindfulness, emotion regulation, distress tolerance, and interpersonal effectiveness. So, emotion regulation is one of the modules, and it's the module that helps you regulate your emotions. And so, it's the one that really you are most in tune with, okay, what am I feeling? Putting words to what am I feeling, and how do I kind of um, move through the feeling without a big reaction. So there's lots of skills about just kind of long term creating this emotional regulation for yourself. So a big emotion regulation skill is building mastery, where let's see if I can find that card. Um,
Yeah, I see it. I got it.
You got it. Perfect. Building mastery. So, big one about just making yourself feel confident. So, doing something over and over until you're really, really good at it. Whether it's something super simple like knitting, or, I mean, not that knitting is simple, but doing a puzzle, knitting, cooking a meal. It could gardening. It could be really anything. Making your bed in the morning. If you continue doing it over and over, you end up
Yeah.
getting a sense of accomplishment. And if you can build on that enough and keep doing enough of those things, you end up really building your sense of confidence, which then when you're in emotional situations, you have that higher level of confidence, so you can be a little bit more steady. There's another similar one called acquiring positives in the short term. And so there's a whole idea list of how you can do that, and just different positive things that you can do, whether it's just going for a nice walk, or whether it's painting a picture, or doing something nice for yourself, taking a bath. And so there's all of those positives that you're just building into your life, and that's just building your resilience to life. If you have more good in your life, you're going to be more resilient when those bad things do happen. And so that's kind of what emotional regulation is all about. So there's lots of skills, but you can flip through them and pick a skill, learn a new one each day. You can pick a skill and journal about it. You can, yeah, really use these cards if you want to pick one per day to learn, if you want to focus on a couple per week. Um, if you want to pick one per deck to learn, there's all sorts of different ways that you can kind of integrate them into your life.
And so yeah, like even one of them for I was gonna say an example would be like for those that are more into tarot and oracle or who are using that on a regular basis, you can totally shuffle out this deck and then do daily polls
Mhm.
or draw, yeah, like a daily card or a couple of cards that really speak to this is what you should work on today, blah blah
Yeah.
blah or whatever. Yeah, so I love that. Okay. So that's one deck split into two. Okay,
Yep.
so then that is more like five or six decks then is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Because there's two of the decks are split in, actually three of the decks are split into two. So we also have distress tolerance and interpersonal effectiveness, and this
Yes,
one is split into two. Um,
yes.
this one's a little bit more obviously split into two, um, because we have two different colors of cards. So these ones are the purple ones are distress tolerance, and the pink ones are the yellow ones are interpersonal effectiveness.
Yes, and I noticed that. Um, Uh, Do you know, because now I'm trying to remember, because I did count them, but I don't remember now. How uh what is the total number of cards that you get?
There are 169 cards total.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I counted. Okay. Trying to remember what I counted because I was like, it doesn't say. So then I went through and I counted
Mm.
all of them, but I couldn't remember because like there's like I think the affirmations has like 50, and then there were some odd numbers for some of the
Yeah.
other ones, and I was trying to add them up. So yeah. Okay, so 169. That's
Yeah.
yes. Okay. So
Yes.
let's go through these stick, the distress tolerance
Yeah.
and the interpersonal effectiveness. So whichever one you want to talk about first.
Yeah, so distress tolerance is all about getting through a hard situation without making it worse. So it's a lot of it is just about kind of surviving the moment. So a big skill is distracting with the skill accepts. So you just use your accept skill, which is an acronym for activities, comparison, contributing. I shouldn't do this off the top
Emotions,
of my head.
pushing away thoughts and
There
sensations.
we
Yeah.
go. Um, and it is all about just distracting yourself in the moment so you can get through that tough moment. And then once you're through it, then you can use your other skills. So distress tolerance skills are very much, you can overuse them. You can very much over distract yourself and use these skills too much. So you want to do it when you're in crisis and when you can't access your other skills. So when you know you're not in your wise mind, distress skills or distress tolerance skills are a really good thing to go to. So some of the skills are a half smile. So if you're in a situation you're feeling like really, really angry and you can't get out of it, you might just need to sit there and put on a half smile, and it's just tricking your body into, okay, I have a little bit of a smile, I must be happy, and it's telling your body physically that you're not as mad as you are. And sometimes that's enough just to calm it down a little bit. It's not being fake, it's not just ignoring the situation. It's saying, I know the situation's bad right now. I'm not in a place to react to it. I need to calm myself down. This is something that may help that. Another big one is the tip skill, which tip, the T stands for temperature, tip the temperature. And it's when you change your body temperature really rapidly with a bucket of ice, and you just dunk your face in a bucket of ice to kind of trigger that dive response. And that really will kind of help you get out of your emotional reaction. If you're really, really intense and feeling that you might just need a splash of cold water on the face, or if you can dunk your head under the water, even better, and hold your breath. That's what triggers that dive response and tells your body to reset your nervous system and kind of calm down.
Okay.
Then we've got our interpersonal effectiveness. These ones
Mm-hmm.
are the yellow cards, and these ones are all about dealing with other people. So they're all about the skills in how do you respond to yourself? How do you protect your boundaries? How do you kind of, like we talked about the deer man in the journal, we've got that as a skill here. Yep, we got the deer
Mm-hmm.
man. So there's lots of awesome skills. We've got the give fast skills. They're more acronyms about just how you present yourself in conversations. There's ideas for making friends. There's a few different cards on this, or a couple different cards on ideas for making friends. I thought this was important to include. I have Googled how to make friends, which as I was doing, thought was embarrassing and um, a silly thing. And so I thought other people are definitely doing this. As adults, it's so hard to make friends. And so sometimes you just need to know that A, other people are struggling with it. And so knowing that there's a card for it. Other people must need these cards. Uh,
Hmm.
so sometimes it's just knowing that, you know what, it's a challenge for other people, but also there are some great ideas to get yourself out there. And sometimes you just need a reminder that, yeah, if you want to make friends, you do have to put in some effort. You do have to put yourself out there in some capacity. So thought it was important to include that. And yeah, some other,
I really love this in regards to that, especially when dealing with other people, because it may seem silly as like you said that you even felt like yeah, little ways, like even Googling it. But yeah, like I mean, I know that even people with mental health concerns, those of us that have diagnosis, yes, it can be daunting. um Depending on the type of person that we are, we may find ourselves around people who who try to dominate, who right, and us not, if we haven't learned how to properly assert our boundaries and things like that, or even understand fully what those boundaries are. Because
yeah,
one of the things that I notice is that we can put boundaries in place. However, if the boundaries that we're putting in place are trauma influenced, sometimes depending, right, it may be the wrong boundary, or it may be done the wrong way, in a
yeah,
way that ends up harming you and the other person rather than actually being effective.
hmm
So I really like that we have how to end a relationship in here. We have the boundary building card. um Troubleshooting interpersonal effectiveness skills, and then how to apologize and repair. Because I think this is a big one, especially when it comes, right, when we're relating with one another. Because when we, again, when we're dealing with trauma, when we have our own traumas, we can misinterpret things, and that's
yeah,
how frictions and miscommunication comes up. But when we've learned how to access these skills, the idea of apologizing and repair and taking accountability, we're less likely to tank those relationships. What I notice nowadays with people is when there's conflict, everybody is quick to just, okay, block.
yeah,
Like, instead of, there was a miscommunication, there's, how can we come together and actually talk about it, right? Especially when we're dealing with people who, yes, are neurodivergent, right? We have neurotypical versus neurodivergence, right? Those that may be ADHDs, there's some behaviors that we may engage in that often people can mistake for something else,
hmm
right? And mistake for being rude or being whatever, when that's not the case. That's just how they process. So if
yeah,
we don't have that conversation to really have that understanding, then we're doing both parties a big injustice,
yeah,
right? And so that's why it is important for us to be able to apologize and repair, to be able to
hmm
recognize these things, ask questions. You will never know what the answer is if you don't ask,
hmm
right? um and taking into consideration that we're all different, and what what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for the other,
yeah,
right? And so it's finding that happy medium between the two parties. And if we're, especially when we're living in a world where we're not the only ones living here, we're in a sea of so many other selves, so many other journeys,
hmm
so many other perspectives. It's important to be able to to recognize these things. So I love that you have that in here. Apologize and repair. Acknowledge what happened without defensiveness. Take responsibility for your actions. Validate the other person's feelings. Apologize sincerely, not to erase guilt, but to repair trust. Offer a repair. Example, making amends, change behavior, ask what's needed. Like, I couldn't ask for something, a better tool. So thank you, because this is amazing. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who can benefit from this, even just that card alone.
Hmm.
Even if they don't use anything else, the apology and repair.
It's a good card. We all need that card.
Exactly, right? Because no one is perfect. We're all perfectly imperfect human beings.
Yep.
And this life is really just trial and error.
Yep.
So, yeah. So this is awesome. Anything more about the interpersonal effectiveness?
No, that's it for that one.
Okay.
And then we go into our mindfulness deck, which also has two kind of separate decks in it. So it's separated into mindfulness exercises, and those ones are all in pink writing. And then we have mindfulness skills that are all in the dark blue writing. So the mindfulness
Okay.
skills are the DBT skills. So we've got non-judgmentally, one mindfully, participate, observe, describe, doing mind versus being mind, urge surfing, wise mind, effectively, and spirituality.
And I love this. So you have a card that actually illustrates the wise mind, as
Yeah.
you were talking about it before. So, yeah. Okay, so you were saying this one again has the two, it's broken into the mindfulness skill and the mindfulness exercise. Okay.
Yeah, and then the exercises are more just things that you can do. So exercises you can do, and you can do these in a group setting. So you can pull these with a group of people and do it all together, or you can do these just on your own as well. And again, you can do one in the morning, one at night, however you can do a couple of them at a time if you need. Pull one out during work if you're stressed and you need something in the middle of a work day. You can kind of just pull one, and this one says, sit comfortably and take a deep breath in. As you exhale, slowly stretch your arms overhead, lengthening your body. Inhale as you lower your arms. With each
Sorry,
movement,
which one is that one?
bring awareness. This is breathe and stretch.
Oh, okay.
Bring awareness to how your body feels. Breathe in relaxation, breathe out tension. Take a few minutes to stretch gently. Let your body release any held stress. So, just simple mindfulness exercises. Some of them have something that you need to use with it, maybe a glass of water or a pencil. Most of
Or a
them you can just,
candle.
or a candle, but most of them you can just do on your own without anything else. And that's the mindfulness deck.
I love that. That is amazing.
Yeah. And then the last one is the affirmation deck. These ones are, this one is all one deck. Um, and this one is just all affirmations, and they were created for big feelers. So they're affirmations that are kind of specific to people who are neurodivergent or,
So like us.
yeah, people that have a lot of feelings, and yeah, they are made with lots of love and very intentionally created um, just to bring you some encouragement. So this one says, I am not broken. I am healing and growing every day. So these ones are meant to read multiple times, hold with you throughout the day. You can put it up on your fridge or your mirror to remind you. But it's something that, especially with this affirmation deck, I think you can really pull it and kind of pull the cards that are meant for you. So whether you want to close your eyes or shuffle them and see which ones fall out, or see which ones you're drawn to. But I think, yeah, the affirmation deck is one that you can definitely use a lot more like tarot.
So on that note, because like I said, I absolutely love everything that came, and that's how my brain works. I was in the middle of a sentence and then there was a thought that came in. It was like, oh my God, don't forget. But you haven't finished the sentence yet. So finish the sentence first. Um, I was going to say that, while as since we're on that topic, and for the affirmations, I want to shuffle and pull an affirmation for us and the collective today. But before I do that, because that part of my brain is so excited and was like, I didn't get to show the candle. And I want to show the candle because I specifically make sure to remember to put it like close enough so that I wouldn't forget. And it smells so good. So this is the candle that if you guys haven't seen the video that I did, sort of talking about like the whole package, and it was a top down, but this is the candle that I was referring to that I never really got to show. Homemade. It's got the wood wick, and as I was lovingly told, it's homemade with pieces of wildflower inside. And let me tell you how amazing this smells. Like, all I want to do is just sniff it all the time. But the thing is, I'm like, when are you gonna burn it? I don't know, because if I burn it, then it's gonna be gone and it's not gonna be there anymore. So I can't smell it. So
The scent
that's
is ylang ylang, which is supposed to be good for depression. They say that that essential oil is specific for helping with depression. And it's also the scent. I used to live on the island of Madagascar for 2.5 years.
oh
And
wow.
I lived on an island off the coast of Madagascar called Nusi Bay, but it was nicknamed the Scented Island because ships could smell the lang as they were coming in before they would arrive on the island. And so it really reminds me of that time of my life, which was a really challenging time, but that smell was just always so soothing to me. And so I wanted to use that same smell for these candles because it was so meaningful to me. So yeah.
And it's beautiful. Like I said, like I can sit there, and I think I realize that I am very sensitive to smell as well, or can be, in the sense of, um like, yeah, like resetting and
Mhm.
grounding, like that's a thing for me.
For sure.
And I love the smell of this. Like, I could sit here for hours and just, not
Yeah,
that I'm going
a
to,
nice
but I'm
soothing
sitting.
smell.
And it smells so wonderful. So yeah, okay. So I love everything, even like with the stickers. Like I said, you even threw a fridge magnet in there. And it even says somewhere, I think, I can't remember if it was in the deck or in the journal or something. Somewhere I read that, yeah, you can, as you do your daily polls, you can put it on the fridge. Well, you have a fridge magnet to keep it up there.
There you
So
go.
yeah, so I think that's beautiful. But I'm gonna, and you're welcome to do this too. I want to shuffle up the affirmations deck so we can get a card for the collective. Um, Even just to close out today. Because I think, like I said, this everything is so wonderful, created, and you did an amazing job the way that all of this is laid out. Um, how helpful I think that this can be for so many people. So, what do we have for the collective today in regards to affirmations from the Mindful Wildflower deck? Let's see. No, that's too many cards. So the way that this is designed, I mean, I would say the cardstock is not necessarily all that great for shuffling per se, the way like typical. But not to say it can't be done. It totally can because I am doing it. It's just not. Hmm. I love that. The card that I got that came out is everything is as it should be. And
Mm,
isn't that true?
isn't that true? I love that one. I had that written on my mirror for a long time.
Everything is as it should be. I know that a lot of the time we often can um even when we've when we're dealing with trauma, even like our stories, as much as they sort of reflect upon one another, we wouldn't be here having this conversation today if the things in our life, the way that they popped off, didn't pop off the way that they did, right?
Exactly.
So, sometimes what we think is was meant to derail us or keep us back or stump us on our journey. No, maybe what it is a pivot point or a a caution. Nope,
Hmm.
you're going down the wrong path there, my friend. So
Yeah.
let's right and just to change course. Um, everything that we've gone through, there's lessons to be had. There's things that we learn. Either about other people, about society, and even ourselves.
Hmm.
So when we think that, well, this didn't go the way that I had hoped it to be, or, I feel rejected by that person or whatever, maybe that was a blessing in disguise. You don't
Yep.
really know. So it's being able to have that recognition and have that acceptance of
Yep.
of where things are at, and then everything is unfolding as it should be for your highest and greatest good.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that. I love this affirmation. This is absolutely beautiful. Did you pick one, by the way?
I didn't yet, but I will. I have the deck here. So let me just shuffle and see which. Oh, here we go. This is the one. I can love others without abandoning myself. I love that. I think, yeah, that's an
I
important,
love that.
yeah, it's an important one, especially having BPD. I resonate it with a lot because we're so black and white and all or nothing, a lot of the time we can really lose ourselves in relationships or in a friendship or just kind of lose ourselves in another person. And so I think this, I can love myself or I can love others without abandoning myself, meaning I
Yeah.
know who I am. I know I'm confident in the love that I deserve as well. And yeah, I can love myself just as much as I'm loving others. I think
Yeah.
that's a great one.
I absolutely love that. And I feel like that's a great segment even to close with because, you know, at the end of every video, as I always say, I am love and so are you. As I see myself as human, I know you are too. So, with all that being said, please make sure to take care of yourself and one another. And while you're at it, please don't forget about us too, especially Michelle, because what you've created here is something so magical, so beautiful. And the way that it's organized, it is done in such a loving, fantastic way that I am beyond impressed with everything. I've realized that I've learned a lot more in even with this therapy practice because I'm more accustomed to cognitive behavioral therapy as opposed to the dialectical, and but the way that this was done and laid out, and even the way that you explained all of it, it's just chef's kisses. So I hope that, that everyone, who will be watching this today, of course, we're doing this on Thanksgiving, but they'll probably not see it until after that. And of course, by Thanksgiving, I mean a Canadian Thanksgiving. Um, so, but I hope that you will, I will have Michelle's links to everything down in the description box, so that you can also follow her on Instagram, and whatever other social she has. But of course, you'll be able to find that on her website, which I will have linked down there too. And of course, for me, you know, like, share, and subscribe if you feel like anybody can benefit from videos like this, and to even know about some of these things. Please be sure to share that with others. And as we leave you here today, please remember to always check your privilege, mind your magic, and as always, live, listen, and learn. I love you all so, so much. This is me loving you without losing myself, too. So, bye, everybody. Take care.